Om Shri Sai Ram, offering our humble pranams at Bhagwan's divine lotus feet, respected elders, brothers and sisters. We welcome you to the 138th edition of Samarpan on this auspicious occasion of Onam. I take this opportunity to wish all of them seated here a very happy and blessed Onam. On this festival day, as Swami has reminded all of us, we celebrate Emperor Bali's dedication and spirit of sacrifice, who comes from the great lineage of Prahlada, his grandfather, and Virochana, his father, who were the chosen devotees of the Lord. Emperor Bali, as we all know, completely surrendered to Swami and has truly taught us the meaning of Samarpan. So it is befitting that we are having Samarpan on this day, on this auspicious occasion. By Swami's immense grace, we are fortunate to have Brother Harish Krishnan Balasubramanian as our speaker for this session. He has been blessed with great dearness and nearness to Swami. I'll just give a brief introduction of our Brother Harish. Brother Harish is an alumnus of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. He was born and brought up in Chennai, and he was introduced to Bhagwan in the form of a photograph. In fact, he was telling me that one of the photographs, which was where Swami was doing the Abhyasta, was the one where he was introduced at the tender age of 7. He joined Swami's college at Prashanti Nilayam in the year 2003 for his MBA program. After completion of his MBA, he was handpicked by Swami to work in the Sri Sathya Sai Sadhana Trust at Prashanti Nilayam, where he worked till 2012. His mother resides in Prashanti Nilayam and serves in the primary school in Puttaparthi. Brother Harish was blessed by Bhagwan with a rare opportunity to provide personal assistance to Swami since the year 2005. Among the chosen few, Brother Harish was selected by Swami to be a member of his entourage to Kodaikanal, Mumbai, Harshi and Chennai during Swami's trips. On the professional front, Brother Harish works with Walmart as a senior manager in the Global Audit Analytics Division since May 2019. He currently resides in Bangalore with his family, his wife, Sister Sai Ranjini, who also is an alumnus of the institute, his son Sarvajit, who's a Balvika student, and his daughter Kasturi, who sings very well, in fact. In the words of one of his classmates, Brother Harish is a balanced, humorous, curious, and down-to-earth person, always staying in the present and living to the fullest. At a personal level, both of us were part of the same Samiti in Bangalore, which is the Electronic City Samiti, where in fact Brother Harish and his family are actively involved in the Sathya Sai Seva organization. Besides that, he is part of the Vidyuleka team, the alumni magazine of the Sri Sathya Sai educational institutions. Without further ado, I would now like to invite Brother Harish to share his memorable experiences with Bhagwan, and he'll be speaking on the topic chiseling as a happening. Brother Harish.
Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer myself at Bhagwan's lotus feet. Thank you. Respected, most beloved Bhagwan, respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, a Sai Ram to one and all, and Onam Ashamsakal. Whatever I was planning to talk about Onam was already stolen by the brother who introduced me, Parikshit. So thank you for that, brother. But it cannot be a more apt day than Onam for me to have this wonderful opportunity to talk in Dharmakshetra. In fact, the very first interaction that Bhagwan had with me in regards to, as a personal service or as a attendant to him was to inquire about the Kerala youth who had landed in Prashanti Nilayam in April for the Vishu celebrations. In fact, Swami at that time mentioned to me that వాళ్ళు కేరళ వాళ్ళు అందరూ ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారో చూడు, Kerala people have come, go find out how many people have come. So at that point in time, I had no understanding of the chain of command, the line by which you get the instructions or anything like that. So Swami has told, then immediately went to where the orange scarves, I remember they were wearing that time. They were all sitting. I went there and asked one of those people there, like, how many of you are there? And someone was answering that time, Professor Mukundan, who was the state president of Kerala. He immediately came there running. And like, the hallmark of greatness, they say, is humility. And that is something which you will see constantly in Prashant Nilayam. People who have been serving at very high positions and those who have been dedicated to Swami will talk to a student who joined the institute 2 years back, and who probably has absolutely no knowledge of Sai literature or no knowledge of the amount of work which the Sai organization does, with the same respect by which they would speak to Swami, because they do not see the distinction. Because when you are going and speaking to the devotees, they do not see you as the person who is standing in front of them, but as the messenger who has come from Swami. So that humility was a huge lesson to me. And of course, they had also immediately given all the information which I had the opportunity to communicate back to Swami. As some of you might have heard in some of my earlier talks, that was the time when Swami had just started talking to me. And being someone from Chennai, I wanted to use that opportunity that Swami was in a very rare instance of Swami being in Prashant Nilayam for Tamil New Year's Day and Vishu, which were like subsequent days. So we wanted to put up a drama on some literature from Tamil, which some of us who were staying back in hostel after our vacation were well versed with. So I took the opportunity to write the script, and we wanted to take it to Bhagwan. Fortunately, had the wisdom that time to go and ask a teacher, like, is this something which we can do? Can we go and approach Swami and ask? Because when Swami starts talking to you, like Professor Bhagya says, we first become Chatterjees, then we become Banerjees. We start talking to everyone that, now, I am an important person. Swami is talking to me. And I am this form boy. I'll carry this banner saying that, if anything has to go, let it go through me. I can talk anything to Swami. It's very easy for us to fall into that trap. And so that is when I also kind of fell into this trap and thought, this is the time for me to initiate this drama performance which our batch can do. Our batch was blessed with multiple opportunities to perform skits, dance programs, speeches, and all those things during our 2 years. We were a little spoiled, to say it lightly. Then I took this to one of the teachers who were in charge for us in the hostel, and then we went to them and told that, sir, this is something which we're thinking of. This is something we can do. And being a little over smart that I was, I already went and spoke to the Kerala and Tamil Nadu state presidents at that time. And they all said, no, if the students program is there, definitely Swami will enjoy. We should have that. Right? So they immediately said yes. So once I went to the teacher, then the teacher kind of explained to me, someone very wet behind the ears, that these people have not practiced for 1 or 2 days. You are today writing a script and thinking about putting up a drama in 3 days. These people have been practicing for months for this one opportunity to come in front of Swami and perform. Do you think it is correct for us to go and take to Swami a different proposal for a program? And that is when kind of it sunk in that proximity does not mean dearness. Proximity does not mean understanding. Proximity does not imply that it is an opportunity for you to do what you want. Those videos kind of kindled a lot of memories, and sorry for digressing a little. But yes, in many ways, Kerala and Onam have been integral to lot of the chiseling which has happened in my life in Bhagwan's fold. So chiseling has a happening. What does this topic even imply? What does this even mean? Very often, we get caught in this loop of cause and effect. Swami is talking to that boy because he has been doing so and so. Swami is not talking to that person because I heard he was involved in such and such. Right? Very easily we try to analyze the actions of Bhagwan, who is beyond the comprehension of the limited company of our senses. Swami says, your eyes cannot perceive beyond a wavelength. Your ears cannot perceive beyond a frequency. And yet, with this limited company, you think that you can comprehend the vastness of Bhagwan's creation, of His grace and His intent. How foolish can we be if we think that we can analyze and understand what leads to Bhagwan's actions? The more I started understanding, no, I shouldn't say understanding, realizing or being aware of the fact that unless we separate ourselves from what is happening to us, we can neither witness the happening nor can we realize the chiseling. We all say, why do you go to Bhagwan? He says, we go to Bhagwan because we want to get transformed. I remember I was doing my engineering and I had this opportunity to do MBA in Prashantanilayam and I was planning to go there. So I had a friend who studied with me in school as well as in engineering, and I knew him for many years. We even lived in the same neighborhood. So he asked me, what is it? What is your plan? What are you going to do? I know you wrote CAT, MAT, RAT, SAT and all those entrance examinations for MBA. Finally, where are you going to go? I said, no, I'm going to Prashantanilayam. I'm going to go to Sri Satyasai Institute of Higher Learning. I'm going to do my MBA there. He was extremely surprised. Then he asked, why? What is the reason for you to go there? So I said, no, I'm going there for my own transformation. Again, a textbook answer, right? When you don't know what you want to say, you say what the literature says. You say what everybody else says. Then his immediate question was, no, but you are not a bad boy. Right? So the idea then was like, this Puttaparthi is like a military school. A person who is completely indisciplined would go there to gain discipline. So he was like, you are not a wayward person. You don't need to go there and get transformed. What is it that you want to get transformed for? I did not have an answer that time. I just smiled and we continued doing what we were doing. But the interesting thing which happened was that there was transformation. We often think that transformation implies bad to good. And more importantly, looking bad to looking good. what I realized was all my life, all my youth, I had been obsessed with the need to look good, with the need to be someone who does not get any remarks, need to be someone who gets good name for the family, gets good name for parents, all those kind of things. But internally, I would feel extremely impure. The reason I would feel impure, again, which is something, realization which came many years later, was because I was not addressing what was happening within me as something whole, right? We're always trying to have a narration around it. We're always trying to have a story around it. And anything which looks good is something which you project outside. Anything which does not look good is something which you hide inside. And more when we do this, it becomes more and more toxic. I did realize that I was developing a lot of self-pity, self-hate, and all those kind of negative scenarios going on. So Bhagavan always says, reflection, reaction, resound. Yadbhavam tadbhavati. What is your thought? That is how the world reflects back to you. So when we face the world by looking good, but having all these feelings of self-inadequacy, the world will reflect that back to you. And that is what happened to me. I was low on confidence. At one side, I was getting scores, I was getting marks, and those things were going on, but I did not have the confidence to face the world. I was feeling extremely inadequate. But here is the interesting part. Swami says that what you give to the world is what the world reflects back to you. But he does not say what we give to Bhagavan, how does that come back to us? So when we are in the presence of Bhagavan, there is no world to reflect back our own feelings of self-inadequacy. Instead, we get to be the ones who reflect what Bhagavan's opinion of us are. Because when Swami sees us, he sees us as the reflection of his own purity. We remember with great amusement when Bhagavan would tell stories about the students. He would tell about the idealness of the student life, about how all the students would be absolute perfections. How everyone would get up on time for Suprabhadam, how everybody would be, in fact Swami would say that the students would soak the rice from previous day and the next day they will mix some majjiga or buttermilk with that, and that is what they eat for breakfast because it's very healthy. The previous night at 12 o'clock we would have taken rice from hostel, mixed it with pickle and had a proper Rajasic dinner. But Bhagavan saw us from his eyes. Bhagavan saw us from the way he knew we could be. Bhagavan saw in us the potential. So all these places where Bhagavan chose to give himself, to give his love unconditionally and to walk amidst us, be it Prashanti Nilayam, be it Dharmakshetra, be it Vrindavan, be it Sundaram, be it Sai Shruti, be it Shivam, be it any of these holy places which Bhagavan has breathed and lived in, it contains within it His own reflection, reaction, and resound. In the years that I had the immense opportunity to be in His presence, we got to witness Bhagavan as a personality. He was as human can be, and every now and then provide the flicker of His divinity to kind of keep us grounded. In His human existence, there is nothing which any of us have faced that He has not faced. All the difficulties, all the jubilations, nothing did He prevent Himself from facing. And that is why when He says, my life is my message, we can take it with pure authenticity because Bhagavan experienced every emotion that a human being is expected to experience. And I got an absolute beautiful privilege to witness every one of those emotions. They say that Swami is a possessive God. Got to witness His envy as well. Got to witness His. But there is one emotion of His that we never witnessed. We have never seen Swami afraid. We have never seen fear cross His eyes. Because Swami says the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. How can fear exist when love itself is walking on 2 feet? The reason why I mention that every place of His is suffused with His reflection, reaction, and resound is that I got the taste of this during the first stint in Prashant Nilayam after I got my admission into MBA. I entered the portals of Prashant Nilayam. Swami was still in Vrindavan at that point in time. And we were left to face the sun, the humidity, and the mosquitoes. It is a very interesting experience being in Prashant Nilayam before Swami makes his appearance. And yet, despite Swami, at that point it was very easy for us to kind of distinguish between the physical and the ethereal. So physically Bhagavan was not in Prashant Nilayam. And I, as a student or as a devotee, had not really experienced much time with Him as a personality. As brother introduced, Swami had come to my life in the form of a photograph when I was 7 years old. And that is the photo, thank you brother, for displaying in the background. So that is the picture which used to be in our altar. But the only darshan we have had of Swami was the Dur darshan. So Swami would come to Sundaram or Abbotsbury in Chennai and he would be in the balcony. And we would not even know what is the timing of darshan or anything else like that. So we would just go there on a random time when my father was free. And a couple of times when we went there, Swami was giving darshan from the balcony. I remember my father lifting me on his shoulders so that I could have his darshan from long distance. And that was the proximity which we had. So this was the first time in Prashant Nilayam. And me, as I was growing up in my childhood, I was a pretty sickly child. I used to fall sick very often. And so I used to be extremely protected. I was also the first grandchild of my maternal family, and also pretty close to everyone in my paternal family, and I used to be extremely protected. So with protection, you get security, but you also have fear. And one of the fears which I had was of stray dogs. I used to be extremely afraid of stray dogs. I used to be afraid of monkeys. And in Puttaparthi, there was no shortage of dogs or monkeys, both with and without tails. So during my very first walk from hostel to Mandir, we were walking across the Ishwarama school, and that entire school, that area, there were some 10-12 monkeys sitting there. And to my surprise, I was feeling no fear. And then I crossed, and then there were stray dogs everywhere, and that fear disappeared as well. And to this day, that fear has not returned. So that for me was the first miracle that I experienced. And it was experienced in absentia. And that is when I understood the value of Sthala Prabhavam, the value of being in a place which was chosen by the avatar. A place which has witnessed his presence. It has its own magic, it has its own miracle, it has its own glory, because it has been the recipient of the reflection, reaction and resound of Bhagwan himself. As I narrate many of these experiences, being in the financial capital of India, I am reminded of one interesting experience which we had. So, there were 5 of us that time around Swami, and Swami used to call us Panchapandavas. I have the privilege today of being one of 3 in this hall who were part of the group. So, hold me true here. There was this one particular doctor who was extremely devoted in a childlike manner, Swami, and every now and then he would be leaping with one letter in his hand. So Swami would joke with him and pick up that letter. One day he came inside interview room, and we were all sitting there. And one thing that we have witnessed is in our time with Bhagwan is the predominant time that Swami spends throughout the day is with letters. He's constantly reading letters, whether he's sitting in the interview room, whether he's at the dining table, wherever he is, there's always a bunch of letters next to him, and that is what he's constantly consuming. On this particular day, Swami took this letter, and there was a mischievous glint in his eyes, so we knew something was coming. So we had, as our practice, our head down, and had the opportunity to do Pad Seva, and we would not look up unless Swami was talking to us. And Swami suddenly told us and said, "Ikkada chudu." Then Swami was holding up a check. So we have heard so many stories of Swami taking up a check and saying, and this did not come in the correct means, and tearing it up. So we thought we were going to experience something like this. But in this case, Swami just said, "See, inta pedda check ichadu. See what a big check he gave." Then we were silent. We don't know how to respond to this. Then he said, "Munnane inka oka pedda check ichadu." Even some days back, he gave a big amount. We're like, we never had an experience having such kind of conversation with Swami. What is Swami trying to say? Then we didn't know what to respond. Then Swami said, "Nenu tank lo pettunnanu, wallu tap open chesi istunnaru. I am putting in the tank, they are opening the tap and giving. Is that not true for every one of the actions that we do? We think that we are standing here as speakers giving talk. Who's going to come and listen to someone if he did not have the association of the Lord himself? If Bhagavan had not poured all that love and all that experiences in the tank, what is going to come out of the tap? We think we are great, great performers, great singers, great musicians. But where does all that come if the talent was not given by him, if the opportunity was not provided by him, if the chiseling had not happened through him? I remember one beautiful incident. There is an excellent flutist in Prashanti Nilayam who still serves in the ashram. And before bhajans, he had the opportunity to play flute. It was on that particular day, there was something in the air, and the sound of that melody was extremely beautiful, and everybody was enthralled by it. And that was during the gap between the alap and the bhajan. So at the end of the performance, the singer started singing the bhajan. So after that bhajan was over, very uncharacteristically, Swami started talking in the bhajan hall. Typically when bhajan starts, there is no conversations. It goes on all the way till Aarti, and during Aarti, Swami accepts the Aarti and walks out of the bhajan hall. That used to be, if any conversation would happen, it would happen before the bhajan starts. But this day, suddenly Swami started talking and everybody fell silent. What is it that Swami is talking? Then Swami said, Vadu chudu, enta baga vasichadu. Everybody was like, yes, Swami. It's an extremely beautiful playing. And before I continue, I should mention this. It is to the credit of the devotee or the student if Swami chooses to make that person as an example of a story. Swami would not do that to a new student or someone who has just come to his fold. If Swami uses you in a story, that is an indication that he understands or he acknowledges that you are in tune with his thought. Right? So then Swami was talking about this boy, and he said, it was such a beautiful performance. The melody was so beautiful, we were all enthralled. But we all could sense that the but was coming. Then Swami said, Kani, would we all be listening to him if it was not between bhajans, if it was not between the namasmarana for which we are all here? We knew Swami was going to go somewhere here. Before we go to that was a huge lesson for me. Because I had opportunity, because I was sitting closer to Swami, to look at that student. When Swami was lifting him up to the sky and then dropping him down, I could see the equanimity in his face. I could see that he was unaffected by the fact that Swami was praising him, nor was he affected by the fact that he was dropping him down. Because not only was he playing an instrument, but he had subjected himself to be an instrument to be played by him. Swami then used this instrument to tell the story that no matter how beautiful is the secular education that we are getting in Prasanthi Nilayam, what is the use of that if it is not interspersed between the Atmic education for which we are actually here? Every now and then, Swami would use an opportunity to drive a point home in a manner by which it sticks to us. That years later, when many other things have been forgotten, these lessons do not easily fade away. Back during my MBA days, we had the opportunity to put up a program for the MBA day, which is an opportunity where only the MBA boys, the first and second year boys, would have a chance to put up a program. And our batch especially was extremely talented. We had all kinds of Athirathis and Maharathis, as we call it, who were great in public speaking, in dramatics, in music and whatnot. So this being a smaller group, and the MBA of our batch was one of the first batches which was predominantly external. I think we had about 45 to 50% of the students were first time students who had studied or bachelors outside and had come to MBA for Prasanthi Nilayam for the first time. So this was an opportunity that we all got to be in his presence and to put up some performance in front of him. Fortunately, the few students who were there from before were able to guide us that the focus here is not our performance. The focus here is to see how much time we can get of Swami. See how much we can, make Swami spend time with us as exclusively as possible. Everyone wants inclusivity as long as we are not the exclusive ones to receive. But when we are the ones who are receiving His grace, we want it to be exclusive. And that is the beauty of the avatar, that he made each and every one of us feel exclusive. Each and every one of us are unique, just like everybody else. So during that MBA day, we were all prepared with our program, and I had the opportunity to be a trade union leader. So I was probably the first person in the history of Prasanthi Nilayam to look at Swami in the face and shout strike. So I was seated there before the program in the bhajan hall, and the makeup boys were there. Typically in any Prasanthi Nilayam drama, there would be a contemporary base, and there would be a historic anecdote which would involve a mythological or historical character who would have a life lesson from Swami's Chinnakathas. So the makeup person was busy with all those historical characters. And then I remember going to that person and asking, do I need to put any makeup? I've got a lot of dialogues. So he said, no, what is your character? I said, trade union leader. He said, you look perfect as it is, go and sit. So we were seated there in the bhajan hall. And Bhagwan came to the bhajan hall before the program. He was interacting with some of the students who were there, and remember Professor Sudhir Bhaskar sir was there in front, who as our champion. He was trying his best to make sure that Swami spends as much time as possible with all of us. And then Swami said, "Idene doubts unte adagandi. If you have any doubts, you ask." Veteran devotees of Bhagavan and veteran students know that this is the time to silence your mind. But we were all new, we were all fresh and wet between our ears, and we thought, this is what a great opportunity this is. And we all started raising our hands. Initially, we were all kind of reluctant. So Sudhir Bhaskar sir in this asked us few questions to kind of get the conversation moving. And then slowly we all took courage and started raising our hands. So my opportunity came, I raised my hand, and then Swami looked at me and asked, "What is your question?" Then I said, "Swami, how do I control moods? When I'm in a good mood, I'm very productive. I'm able to get a lot of things done. But when I'm not in a good mood, I'm not able to get anything done. I'm just sitting there doing nothing. How can I control that?" So I expected a 10-point code of conduct now to say, okay, this is step 1, step 2, step 3. But instead, Bhagavan touched on the most fundamental piece of it all. He questioned my very identity. He asked, "Okay, you are being affected by mood. Okay, who are you?" I said, "Swami, I am your student." He said, No, who are you?" Then I said, "Swami, I am." I think the response I gave was that Swami tells you, "You're not one but three." So I said, "Swami, I am the one who I really am," or something like that. And Swami was not satisfied with that answer. He kind of pestered a little bit more and said, "No, tell me, who are you?" And then I said, "Swami, you only." Then Swami said, "Appadiyalam sollakudadu," in Tamil. You should not tell like that. Because it was not coming out of authenticity. It was coming out of textbook. Then I said, "Swami, the Atman Swami?" Then Swami responded, "You find out that, then you will not be affected by these moods." I remember a story of Ramana Maharishi, which I got to read many years later, where a disciple asked Ramana, "There are so many people come here with different ailments and they have different levels of understanding. To everyone you keep saying, who am I, who am I, who am I? How will people understand this? Why can't you give them something easier to digest?" And it was written that Maharishi responds, saying that when I have the medicine which can cure all diseases, why would I go around prescribing lesser effective medicines to everyone? So in this case, when irrespective of what we think of ourselves, what we believe our own potential is, Bhagavan, seeing his reflection in us, provides that response which he knows will lead to the happening of the chiseling in the long run. Let me narrate a few other instances of this chiseling which I was subject to. So this was one of those days where the Panchapandavas were sitting inside the interview room, and Swami was in a very humorous and happy mood. And he started asking us, what our name was and what the meaning of our name was. So, before that, he was like, he kind of asked all of us, "You are Panchapandavas. So, Dharmajudu Evru? Who's the Dharmaja here?" And there was no confusion. We all looked at Nitin Acharya, brother, and said, "Swami, he is our Dharmaja. He is our leader." And then Swami looked at him and said, "Okay, what is your name?" He said, "Swami Nitin." And Swami said, "What does that mean?" He said, "Swami, it is a name for Krishna." So it was very, very proper, good answer. And then Swami looked at me. And somehow I felt that I was reflecting a mischievous mood from Swami. And Swami looked at me and asked, "What is your name?" I said, "Swami, my name is Harish." Then Swami said, "Hari ante emi." And Swami did not even say Harish, we very specifically said Hari ante emi. So then I thought this was really, my reading was right. And they said, "Swami, Hari ante monkey." Then Swami looked startled, apparently. And then he said, "Why are you saying like that? Enduku atla cheptunnavu?" Then I said, "Swami, you have only told." And I narrated to Swami his own chinna katha of how Narada once, in one of those universes, was attracted by a princess who had said that she will get married to only somebody with a Harimukha. So Narada goes to Narayana and prays to him that he blesses him with Harimukha so that he can go and get married to this princess. Everybody laughing. And he thinks that, wow, everybody is in such a joyous mood today. And he goes in front of the princess being very sure that he will be the one she garlands. But instead she gets scared of him and runs away. And then apparently he looks at himself in his reflection and realizes that his face is one of monkey. And then he goes back to Narayana and the story continues. But as I was telling, I realized that my audience was not captive. And I was over speaking at this point. So I became silent in the middle of the story. Then Swami kind of started telling, "So your parents have kept this name. No, you cannot make joke of this name." Okay, Swami. And I felt very bad that, there were three more of us in the room. And Swami was in such a good mood. He was asking these questions. And because of my response, the other three did not get an opportunity to answer. Apologies again. After that, Bhagavan came to the bhajan hall. And after sitting in the bhajan hall, he continued the same conversation. He started looking at some bhajan boys and started asking them what their name is and what the meaning of their name is. A couple of students answered. And then Swami again turned towards me and asked me one more time, "What is your name?" I said, "Swami, Harish." And before I could even complete that, immediately Swami shouted in Swami's loud whisper, as you could call it, "Hari ante monkey." Whole bhajan hall started roaring in laughter. Unlike the other student who maintained equanimity, my face lost all its color. I was absolutely shocked. I was awestruck. Just now when I cracked the same joke, the Swami, he looked so offended. And now he's telling the same joke to everyone else. But such is the infectious nature of Bhagavan's humour that no matter how you feel, you cannot but help but join in. And I joined with everyone on the laughter, and the day ended that way. But many years later, when I contemplated on this particular incident, I remembered a very important statement which Bhagavan had made. This was in 2005 Kodai. So we were seated in Sai Shruti along with other students, and suddenly someone from the kitchen came and called, said, Swami is calling you. And I got up and went inside. The Swami was in the pathway which comes from the kitchen to the hall where all the students were and elders were seated. And Swami was holding in his hands a tray full of watches. Now we all know the spiritual significance which Swami always tells about watches. Holding that whole tray of watches, Swami gave the whole tray in my hand and then pointed his finger towards me and said, "You are mine. You are mine." Some of you might have listened to some other talks of mine where I talk about a different chiseling which was happening to me in Kodai that year. And why my response at that point was not exactly how you would have expected it to be. But putting two and two together now, I realized that so complete is Bhagavan's ownership of us. When we say that Bhagavan is a possessive God, we mean it in the sense that He owns us completely. So much so that we do not even have the right to mock our own name. Even that right has been relegated to Him. Only He has the right to even make fun of us. When that understanding dawned, there was also a wave of gratitude. As and when we reflect on the various happenings of our life, we slowly and surely start recognizing and being aware of the chiseling that has been taking place all through. Forget about these indirect messages. Even direct messages of Bhagavan are not often perceived by us directly. So accustomed do we become in His proximity that we confuse His humanness for humanity. And we start correcting Swami for his own words. In 2005, after I had completed my MBA, when Swami gave this opportunity to walk beside him, I was still uncomfortable. Because, as the saying goes, form is temporary. So today Swami is talking, tomorrow he may not. Now how do we kind of get retained in Prashanthi Nilayam? How to stay back in Prashanthi Nilayam? It is good if I secure a job in the ashram. If Swami gives me some job in ashram, then I can stay here. Irrespective of, whether or not Swami is talking to me or not. We all make our own schemes, our own plans about what we feel is the requisites for our actions. So I started requesting Swami, please give me some opportunity in the ashram. Then immediately Swami said, Central Trust lo auditor ka chestanu. I'll make you an auditor in Central Trust. ఎవరైనా తప్పు చేస్తే, if anybody makes any mistake, ఏమి భయం లేకుండా స్వామి దగ్గర వచ్చి చెప్పవచ్చు. Without any fear, you can come and tell Swami. Right? So Swami was bestowing the highest role, as the way he was describing it. And yet such is our own opinion of ourselves. Despite constant evidences that Swami has provided, that he does not call the qualified, he qualifies the called. Every instance of my life, every interaction with Bhagavan, every opportunity that I got, were all for things that I was absolutely unqualified for. And yet, he has lifted me up and he has provided me each and every one of those opportunities. And yet again, when he was trying to do something like this, I responded to him saying, Swami, నాకు finance background లేదు. I don't have BCom background. I did MBA, Swami. I did MBA marketing. Swami, వేరే ఎక్కడైనా పని ఇస్తే మంచిది. Swami, please give me job somewhere else. Right? When Bhagavan himself is giving you an opportunity, and that too he's advertising with such beautiful words. Yet, your own self of worth, your own sense of self keeps you down. Many years later, in 2018, I decided that at that point I was in international trade, I was traveling across countries, I was distributing products. So I was getting tired of that. I said, no, I need to get into a different type of role. So I wanted to do another course. So there was this opportunity in a university in the US for me to do a master's. So I went there, did my master's. And during the master's, there was a networking event from Walmart, the company which brother was talking about, where I have the opportunity to work with now, where there was a requirement for a data analytics role. So I went and spoke to that person and it seemed fit, and we went through the entire process and I got in. The interesting thing was, despite the fact that the role was one of data analytics, the department where this role was based was global audit. And as and when I started working there, I started realizing that I was less of an analyst and more of an auditor. So it may take us many years, but every word of Bhagavan will come true. And it has to come true. There was another occasion in Kodai in 2005 when Swami gave his first interview to my parents. And then, Swami was asking about my parents' well-being, and he was telling my parents about me. Oh, he's such and such, the way how only Swami can pep you up. And then Swami said, this boy even sings very well. Then Swami looked at me and said, "Tu paadtavu kada?" Then very diplomatically I answered, "Swami, I follow bhajans." Then Swami said, "Kadu, nu lead cheyochu. You can lead bhajans." I stayed silent. I knew the quality of the bhajan singers who were seated outside. And to even, go and wag my tail there was not something which I was prepared to. But again, many years later, this particular role which I was talking about in Walmart is in a remote town called Bentonville, in a state called Arkansas, which many people in the US are not aware of its existence. I remember so much so that during the orientation in Walmart, the people talking about Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, in some very familiar terms, they said that this place used to be a stone's throw away from Stone Age, and today there is an airport here. I was like, I've heard this dialogue somewhere else. So in this particular place, again, there was no Sai center. Incidentally, there was interest for music. There was interest of group were singing devotional music together. And one such group, we invited them home and we had Sai bhajans, and there are a lot of experiences. Many of them started facing after being part of it. Like very often we think that we are introducing Swami, but visiting cards have already come in. But the interesting thing which happened during that time was, even though many of them were accomplished singers, they did not know about the way to sing Sai bhajans. So then, being the only male Sai devotee there who was aware of Sai bhajans, I had the unique responsibility to teach all these people how to sing Sai bhajans. So I would lead the bhajans for them to, start learning about how to sing. And even that had to come true. So every word of Bhagwan definitely comes true. To help out Brother Parikshit on his conclusion, I thought I will probably conclude with some takeaways. Like any other talk, of course, I came here intending to talk something, and Swami, of course, took it in a totally different direction. But nevertheless, some of the basic themes that I felt that Bhagwan was trying to communicate through this imperfect instrument today was to, number one, recognizing Bhagwan's reflection, reaction and resound in us and associating ourselves as frequently as we can with such places of divine potency where unknowingly to us Bhagwan's divine reflection exists and operates on us and chisels us as an invisible happening. So let us make the effort to visit the places where Bhagwan has been and to spend as much time as we can in all those divine abodes of Bhagwan. Secondly, I know I didn't cover this in detail, but let's not be too quick in judging the spiritual progress or forget anybody else but of ourselves. Very often we start feeling down thinking that Swami has given us so much. What are we doing today? Have we got caught in this world? Have we forgotten him? Have we forgotten his lessons? Let us remember his words that our life is in his hands. Swami has looked at each and every one of our eyes deeply and said that you are mine. Is it possible that our life can go astray? Is it possible that our life would go in a route which was not designated by him? Is it possible that we are going through anything in our life if it was not meant for the happening of our own chiseling? We keep talking about chiseling. What is it that this chiseling is all about? Bhagavan tells in Chinnakatha of a man who very beautifully carves excellent idols of Krishna. It is so much so that anyone who is in the presence of those idols cannot but feel that they are in the presence of Lord Himself. So a person went to him and asked, "How is it that you chisel? What is it that you do? What is the process by which you make such immaculate idols?" Then he said, "What are you talking about? I have not once chiseled an idol of Krishna. Krishna already exists in each and every one of those stones. All that which I chisel out is that which is not Krishna." No matter what questions that we have, no matter what is it that we are facing, no matter what is that one thing which that we feel that we need to overcome, Bhagavan has given one response to all of that. Understand your identity. I started my talk talking about transformation. I talked about how we always used to think that transformation meant bad to good. But what I slowly started to realize or to be aware of in His presence, I remember a story of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, where apparently Swami Vivekananda and Raquel were to take a boat and cross to come to Dakshineshwar. Apparently the boatmen would hurl abuses about Ramakrishna. And Vivekananda gave back the boatmen in equal words and kind of asserted the dominance of his guru. How can someone talk so low of my guru? So apparently when Vivekananda comes back in Ramakrishna's presence, Ramakrishna says, "You should not have behaved like this. You let your anger go astray. You should control. You should learn to be silent." The next day, the same incident happens with Raquel. And he stays silent. And when he comes to Dakshineshwar, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa asks him, "How come you are silent? He is talking about his guru like this. Did you not feel the need to defend?" Professor Sainath sir talks about a very similar incident which happened in Purnachandra with him and another student with very similar behavioral patterns. Every master comes down and every master teaches these lessons. So what does this mean? So should we be vocal? Should we be silent? So that the person who was loud was asked to transform to be a person who was silent. The person who was silent was asked to transform to be the person who was loud. So what then is this transformation? Slowly we become aware that the transformation which Bhagavan constantly talks about, the transformation which Bhagavan constantly brings about in all our lives is to help us understand the fluidity of what we think of our identity. We allow ourselves to be defined by a few personality traits and say that this is Harish, this is me, this is you. And yet, Bhagavan will break that mold. He will break our association with whatever we think is our identity. And once the awareness comes that what we identify as our identity is fluid, is not something which is what we have to live with, then we go back to the question of who am I? And it is the recognition of that identity that Swami has very beautifully mentioned as the medicine for all that which ails us. So praying to Bhagavan to give us the strength to take the bitterness of this medicine and to be able to recover from whatever that ails us, so that we start recognizing that ourself is not different from him and that we ourselves need to be his reflection, reaction and resound. Jai Sai Ram.
Om Shri Sai Ram. I think Brother Harish has made my job simple, but I'll try to rewind and kind of fast forward as well some of the happenings and what he spoke about. I think first of all, let's give a big round of applause to Brother Harish for coming all the way from Bangalore, braving the Bangalore traffic and coming to Mumbai. So Brother Harish started off by talking about how proximity is not equal to dearness, how Swami brought about transformation in his life from a person who had low self-confidence to a person what we see him today. Funny anecdotes of Pancha Pandavas and how Swami always made us feel exclusive. One quite glimpse which only I think farm boys and people who have dealt with Swami would know, and one tidbit which he gave us was how Swami was never afraid. There was no fear in Swami. We always talk about love, but the fear aspect is completely missing, is what Brother Harish beautifully brought out. We talk about mental health a lot nowadays. How to manage moods, the pariprashna which Brother spoke about, and the mental health guidance which Swami gave him at an early stage. How form is temporary but class is permanent, right? So how we need to be humble despite whatever we are today, and how every word of Swami finally comes true despite maybe this generation or the next. With that, we would like to offer our token of gratitude and love to Brother Harish. Would call on stage Brother Nitin Acharya to felicitate Brother Harish. Brother Nitin.
Sai Ram, everybody. I am very happy to, see Harish here and talking. He talked about the God qualifies the called. So I think after having been in Swami's fold and doing his duty, and particularly the last phase from 2005 onwards, and when I was blessed to have Harish also, and even Siddharth, who is also amidst us now, I think at that time, in fact, one of our trustees told that the way this Swami, that phase was there, my duty got over in 2008. So in 3 years, I was not in the close proximity. So that time, one of the trustee told, you were actually fortunate, actually not to see Swami in that state during those, particularly in 2010 to 11. And at that time, when I connect the dots, I felt that emotionally, you have to be very strong. Your heart has to be strong to serve Swami. At that time, Harish was the one who was there out of we Pancha Pandavas. He was the most qualified one, and Swami made him most qualified. So he deserves that big applause. and we will offer some token of gratitude to him. He came all the way today morning. He came, and again today is going back. So we would like to see him again here. Sai Ram, thanks.